Okay, so you want to know how SBI Life Insurance is really doing? You sent over their press release and investor presentation going straight to the source. I like it.
Love it when we get to see the raw numbers.
Mhm.
Always makes for a more interesting deep dive.
Right. So let's unpack this thing and see what story these numbers are telling. You ready to help us decode some of this financial jargon?
Absolutely. Let's break it down.
All right, so one thing that kind of caught my eye right off the bat, this contrast between their new business premium, NBP, being down 3%,
Mm.
while their profit after tax, PAT, is up a whopping 38%. How can those two be going in such opposite directions? Like hitting the gas and the brakes all at once? How does that even work?
You're right to point that out. It's all about understanding the context. See, a dip in MVP doesn't automatically spell disaster. It could mean that SBI Life is shifting its focus away from just trying to sell as many policies as possible, and instead, they're focusing on policies with higher values, even if it means they sell slightly fewer of them overall.
Okay, so thinking bigger picture instead of just chasing numbers, I like it.
Exactly. And that jump of 38% in petty, that suggests to me that they're really keeping a tight rein on their expenses and making some smart moves with their investments.
Okay, so bigger picture, smart moves. They even gave us some hard numbers in the report. NDP at 157.3 billion, while Petty comes in at 10.5 billion. Kind of a big difference when you see them side by side like that.
Definitely something to consider.
So we've got the numbers, but what about the people? How do we know if customers are actually sticking with SBI Life?
That's where persistency comes in, and SBI Life's making a big deal about this in their report.
Okay, persistency. I feel like that's one of those industry terms.
It is, and they're boasting about a 438 basis point jump in their 61-month persistency rate.
Basis points. Okay, time for a quick translation for those of us who aren't financial whizzes. What in the world is a basis point?
So a basis point is basically a fancy way of saying 1100th of a percent. When
Yeah.
SBI Life says a 438 basis point jump, that translates to a 4.38% increase.
So in this case, bigger is definitely better.
Absolutely. In the context of insurance, that kind of jump, especially over 61 months, that's over 5 years. It tells us that a lot more customers are keeping their policies active for a lot longer. It's a good sign that SBI Life is not only attracting the right customers, but also keeping them happy enough to stick around.
And happy, loyal customers means a more stable business, right?
Right.
Less churn, more consistent revenue.
Exactly. Now, here's something else that jumped out at me. SBI Life is reporting a whopping 97.4% digital adoption rate for new business.
Wow, 97.4%. So they're really going all in on the digital side.
It seems like it. What do you think about that? Are insurance agents going the way of the dodo?
Part of me loves the convenience of doing everything online, but I do wonder something gets lost when everything becomes digital. That personal touch can be important.
It's a valid concern. It seems like SBI Life is trying to walk that line between digital convenience and that human element. They're definitely going big on tech to streamline their processes. Take a look at their emphasis on robotic process automation, RPA, and AI.
They even gave us some numbers there, right? They've deployed 300 bots.
Yeah, 300 bots to automate over 228 processes. But here's the thing. They're also still highlighting their network of agents, and it's a big network, over 264,000 agents.
So which is it? Robots or humans?
My hunch is they're trying to find that sweet spot, using these digital tools not to replace their agents, but to make them even better. This way, they can still offer personalized advice alongside a really smooth online experience.
Okay, so have your cake and eat it too. The convenience of digital with that human touch when you need it. Sign me up. I mean, if I can file a claim from my couch with an app, but still talk to a real person if I have a complicated question, that sounds ideal.
Exactly. It's all about using technology to make the customer experience better, not just replacing human interaction altogether.
I can get behind that. Now, this next part caught my eye, and I'll be honest, it's something I'm still wrapping my head around. SBI Life has a whole section in these materials about sustainability commitments, environmental, social, governance, the whole ESG shebang.
It's more than just a buzzword these days. Investors are really starting to look at these ESG factors alongside the traditional financial stuff. It's about looking beyond just profits and considering a company's impact on the world around it.
So how is SBI Life actually doing when it comes to walking that ESG walk?
Well, they highlight several key initiatives in their report. Things like energy management, employee wellness programs, and making a conscious effort to create a more diverse board structure.
So it's about more than just talking the talk. It's about actually taking action.
Exactly. And, measuring the exact impact of these ESG efforts, it can be tough, but it does show that SBI Life is aware of these issues and they're making a visible effort to address them. And for some investors and customers, that's a big deal.
It's like they're saying, hey, we want to make money, but we also want to make sure we're doing it responsibly and sustainably. Okay, so we've covered the financials, we've talked about their digital strategy, their approach to ESG, but what about the actual products they're offering? They've got everything from those traditional life insurance policies to those newer investment linked plans. It's kind of a lot.
You're right, it's a pretty wide range. SBI Life seems to be trying to appeal to a lot of different needs and risk tolerances. In fact, their investor presentation breaks down their product mix: 57% savings products, 11% protection products, and 15% annuities. And each of those categories has even more options to choose from.
It's like a choose your own adventure for your financial future. But seriously, how does anyone even begin to figure out what's right for them with all these options?
That's where a good financial advisor can be super valuable. Someone who can help you make sense of it all, based on your own personal situation and what you're hoping to achieve.
Because when it comes to financial planning, there's no one size fits all solution, right?
Exactly. For example, someone who's just starting their career, they might be more interested in those investment-linked plans, the ones with the potential for higher returns. But someone who's nearing retirement, they might be more focused on something like annuities, something that provides a guaranteed income stream. It all comes down to finding what aligns with where you are in life and your own personal financial goals.
Makes sense. Okay, but let's talk about trust for a second. How can a potential customer feel confident that SBI Life is the right company to trust with their hard-earned money? I mean, the financial services industry hasn't always had the best track record, so it's understandable to be a little cautious.
Oh, absolutely. You're right to be cautious. One good indicator is a company's track record. SCI Life has been around for a while, and they've built a pretty solid reputation in the industry.
Yeah, and in their report, they really highlight their strong solvency ratio, which is at 2.0 over 4. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure what that means, but it sounds like a good thing.
It is a good thing. Basically, the solvency ratio is a way of measuring how financially sound a company is. And for an insurance company like SBI Life, a solvency ratio of 2.04, that means they've got more than twice the amount of capital required by regulators to cover their liabilities.
Okay, so that's reassuring. They're not likely to just disappear overnight.
Exactly. It basically means they've got a strong financial cushion, which is crucial in the insurance world. They need to be able to pay out claims even when times are tough.
Right, because when you buy an insurance policy, you're counting on that promise being kept, even years down the line. Now, switching gears back to their digital transformation for a moment, they seem really set on this hybrid model, technology plus human advisors. It's an interesting approach, but I'm curious, how's it actually playing out in the real world? Are customers responding well to this hybrid model?
That's the million-dollar question. And to be honest, the materials you shared, they don't really dive deep into customer feedback or give us concrete data on how this hybrid approach is being received. To really get a feel for that, we need to look at things like customer satisfaction surveys, independent industry reports, maybe even media coverage that analyzes SBI Life's digital strategy.
So we've got this high-level view of their plans, their vision for the future, but it would be really interesting to see how that translates into the actual customer experience. How is this hybrid model really working on the ground?
I agree, 100%. It's one thing to talk about all these cool digital tools and agent empowerment programs, but it's another thing entirely to see how effectively they're being used and what kind of real-world impact they're having on the customer experience.
So SBI Life is painting a pretty optimistic picture, but like with anything, there's always more to the story. It's important to remember there's a difference between what companies say they're doing and what's actually happening.
Couldn't agree more. Sometimes the most insightful information comes from looking at that gap between intention and reality.
It's like we've gotten this little sneak peek behind the curtain at SBI Life, but there's still some pieces missing. Makes you wonder, are they really walking the walk when it comes to this whole customer-centric, tech-enabled future they're laying out?
That's the question, isn't it? Transparency is so key in financial services. It would be great to see SBI Life put out some more concrete data on how those digital initiatives are actually affecting their customers' experiences.
Right. Like, are people actually saving time with these tools? Are those 264,000 agents as tech-savvy as SBI Life says they are? Are claims actually getting processed faster? So much we could uncover if we had a bit more to go on.
Absolutely, but that's what makes a deep dive so interesting. It's not just about taking things at face value. It's about asking those tough questions, looking at all sides, and really getting into the nitty-gritty details.
And speaking of getting into the details, that's where our amazing listeners come in. Hit us up on social media. We want to know what you think. What are your thoughts on SBI Life's strategy? This whole tech-driven future for insurance, are you into it? Or do you still see the value in having that personal connection with an agent? Maybe you've even got some firsthand experience as an SBI Life customer. We want to hear all about it.
Exactly. Share your thoughts, your experiences, your burning questions about SBI Life. Let's learn from each other.
And if you're really feeling ambitious, keep your eyes peeled for their full annual report. It shouldn't be too long now. That's where you'll find all the really juicy details. It's like the sequel to the movie we just watched, only instead of popcorn, we've got our calculators and our thinking caps ready to go.
Love it. There's always more to learn, more to discover, more to dive into.
You said it. So until next time, keep asking questions, keep challenging those assumptions, and as always, keep diving deep.